All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So I think I'm going to cover four on this one today. We'll talk about BBAI and SOUN probably together. I really want to look at SOFI one more time, and then I'll throw in MLGO. I haven't done that in a bit, and there's actually some interesting things going on, all right? But BBAI on the screen right now, and I'll tell you, this is such a 50-50 moment going into Monday. All right. Believe me, there is a lot of good on this screen right now. There's not necessarily bad, but there are things that have to make me question a little bit. All right. And what I'm going to question isn't a crash or isn't a this or that, like none of those silly words, right? But are we going to do a healthy cool down or are we going to continue? It really is that 50-50 in my eyes, and that's what I'm going to be talking about. All right, this is an interesting doji. You hear me say that phrase a lot, interesting doji. All right, this is a better interesting doji to me. All right, I'm going to talk about the difference between the two of them. End of the day, I always call a doji 50-50, right? But some of them are a little closer to 52-48, and then some of them are a little closer to 48-52, if you know what I mean, right? But I like this one more than that one. But end of the day, it's all been about volume, and I'm telling you, it's hard to decide what I think is going to happen on Monday. We're just going to talk about both sides of the coin, and then we'll react accordingly, right? SoundHound, I can't stress it enough. This is a rather frustrating stock. Look, we're at least over the moving averages for sure. Good candle, no confirmation. Good candle, no confirmation, right? So this is by no means a bad candle. It's definitely, I would say, more on the good side than the bad side. But this thing hasn't confirmed yet. And what used to be a stock that would just go and go, I mean, it's just frustrating. But again, I see more good than bad. Just frustrating, right? SOFI, man, look at the beauty that is SOFI, right? What was just like BBAI, I keep saying this all the time, hunting that 100, hunting, that 100 moving average until it broke and ran. SOFI did the exact same thing, hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting. Instead of the crazy big candle, big volume, just craziness, this went from 14 to basically 19, basically to the last line I had, or not the last line, we still got one more, right? But basically to the line and to the, like, this has been such a beautiful move without ever bringing crazy volume, without ever crazy spiking the RSI, right? Like this thing has just been beautiful, slow and steady. And I mean, that I think echoes a lot of the fact that this is a bank, right? Like banks, that's how they move. And oh man, there's a lot of good on this. I think it's such a beautiful balance to BBAI, right? BBAI rockets in a few candles. This has just been just slow and steady, and I'm telling you, there are so many different types of stocks out there. It's easy to buy and not stress out. It's for sure, in my opinion, a little fun to buy and stress out, right? That's that gambling factor. But man, SoFi, just look at this thing, right? And then lastly, look, MLGO, talk about the gamble factor, right? So we've covered MLGO a couple times. If I had to guess, this was probably one of the last videos I did right there. Because really, MLGO has been entirely about the 8 moving average, this green line right here. And I'm just going to zoom out. Since we lost it, we've never been over it well. And really, as you look at the life of this stock, it's basically under that line for the most part, right? I mean, at the minimum, what you can say the last year and a half, it's been under the green line more than it's been over it, right? So my interest in MLGO actually has less to do with volume. You know, I always say volume is king, right? But volume is queen for the ladies watching this. But get over the 8 moving average and then MLGO will start to get my attention. Lo and behold, we've been over the 8 MA for the last 2 days, right? Not as lovely as I'd like it to, but hey, that's an interesting doji right there, right? And you know I love me interesting dojis like I started this opening thoughts with. And really, I would say this is a nicer interesting doji than a scarier interesting doji, right? So I'll expand on that a little bit more. I think the last thing I have to talk about on these opening thoughts, today was a half day. Tomorrow is a closed market. And NASDAQ did not care. NASDAQ gaps up and keeps going. I always say NASDAQ, S&P 500, Dow Jones, those should move about 0.3 up or down a day. This is basically 3x the normal, giving us more than a 0.9, right? And that's a beautiful, strong gap up candle on NASDAQ. That's a beautiful, even bigger, not a smaller percentage, but bigger candle on the S&P 500. And knock, knock, who's there? Dow Jones as well, right? So overall, the moving averages, this was a nice, and I've been talking about this on the Dow, right? Last week was the first candle that was nicely over all the moving averages, right? I'm not going to go to NASDAQ. SP 500 is easier to type. This has actually been over all five for a bit now and starting to look even nicer, right? Dow Jones was in it, under, in it, under, in it, under. All of a sudden, these are a good 2 weeks on a low RSI. All three indices look good on the weekly. All three look good on the daily. And again, generally, when you have a short week and you have all these big gains that, knock on wood, hopefully you did make, right? We're not here to talk about that, but none of this is financial advice, right? But generally, people would sell right now, right? We're going to sell just in case there's no crazy news over the long weekend. Buy back on Monday and let's go, right? People held because people are liking when the indices are calm, it's like the ocean is calm. And then what we do, we get on our little boats called BBAI and whatever other ticker we want. And the goal is to just go as deep and deep and deep into the profits, deep into the ocean as we can, right? So really, really good index day. In extremely, especially going into the short day and close tomorrow, in my opinion. Please let me know if you disagree. There was actually some good jobs news as well, right? So, cool. Before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But hey, just being here, giving me your time, I'm telling you, I appreciate you so much, all right? So let's get into it. And my goodness, BBAI, I said it in the opening thoughts, I'm going to say it again. When we've been hunting this for what feels like a month, right? If you can break all 5 moving averages up, you just fly. Oof, you just fly. If you lose all 5 down, you die, all right? And believe me, this is seen both sides of the coin, right? Knock on wood, we've been on the better side of it the last couple runs, right? But right now, this is technicals 101 right now, right? So once we got over the last moving average, we just ran. And really, we haven't even used the moving averages, right? We go, candle holds, we go. I mean, this has just been candle movement in a lot of ways, right? I said it in the opening, and really, let's just show this view because this is the view that matters. Right now, it's a 50-50 in my eyes. Are we going to green, red, green, all the way up to 980? Or are we going to start to take into account that this thing's an 84 RSI on the daily, this thing's an 81 on the weekly, and like maybe a little bit of a healthy cool down, maybe down to this $7 range kind of seems realistic, right? And really, those are the 2 things that I'm basically looking at, all right? Look, my trading strategy is about lines, right? You got to get over the line, you got to get under the line. To me, it's very little 50-50, right? There's yes or no. There are people that don't look at any lines and only look at candles, right? There are people that look at other lines, right? Especially in the Discord. I mean, I've seen so many, Elliott Wave is stuff, Bollinger Bands. I mean, there's so many different lines, right? But the one thing I have taken from a candle trader is the importance of a doji candle, all right? It is, today was obviously doesn't count because today wasn't a full day, right? But in a 7-hour trading day, this on Friday only moved 5 cents. It opens at 589, closes at 584. 7 hours, 5 cents. That's uncertainty. People here are saying, you know what? Let's just wait for the next day to confirm, and then we'll go from there. And lo and behold, it did, and we went right. This is the same thing, and I don't like this doji. Look, again, I'm not a big candle dude. Shooting star. My cat wants to leave. Hold on one second. What are you doing? I'm recording. I'm recording. All right, she's gone. Sorry about that. Okay, shooting star. Give me one second. I apologize. Boom, boom, boom. This one right here. So, when the wick is up and the body is down, that's not necessarily a good thing. Some ways you can even maybe say it's one of these, right? But I'm a little bit worried that's a shooting star doji. And based on this little chart that I got from Google, I didn't make this up, I promise you, right? But that has me a little worried that maybe there's going to be a little bit of a downtrend coming, all right? By no means do I think it's going to be that crazy, right? I'm going to talk about what I think the way down is going to be, but I don't like this doji. I like this doji, and really what I also like, let's look at this, right? RSI was still down. Again, it's still a relatively high number, but excuse me, when I click here, you look in the box over there, the RSI was only 76. We don't ring the alarm bell until 80. So I still had a belief that, you know what, we can go from 70 something to maybe 80 and at least try to test this line. It's been even better than that, right? So I like this one more than this one at an 84 RSI. Because again, at 80, I got to start ringing the alarm bell. As we start going to 85, 90, 95, obviously the alarm gets louder, right? So to me, if I had to put a direction on the 50-50, I think coming down to 7 seems just a little bit more realistic than this, all right? One thing I talked about on the last video was maybe keep that like 850 range in your pocket. We didn't really quite get to 850. But that 850 was basically what I thought was 50% of this big candle and roughly the top of this thing right here, right? So not quite the 850, 860. That's actually why I didn't even draw the line, right? But I wouldn't even put it to that right there. The last thing I'm going to talk about is volume before I talk about just the... No, let's just finish up here. So look, what am I thinking? I'm thinking this might come down to 7. And roughly speaking, I'm talking about a 10% loss right there. I think it should be really hard to lose 7 because that's a support line, right? And again, I don't know the math behind these lines, but just kind of following the slope, it looks like the slope's at least going to bring this line up to about 675. And hey, maybe it'll go just a little bit higher on the slope because that thing did technically gap up a little bit, right? So I'm basically seeing the 8 moving average want to come to 7. So to me, I have my own drawn line. And again, I'm just a dude. I can click incorrectly, right? When the moving average is also near one of my lines, I start to like that a little bit more, right? So I can see this coming down to 7, bringing the RSI back down to like a 70-ish. Maybe, I don't even think it's going to come to 60 if you really want to know the truth, right? But I think if we can get out of this high 80, bring me down to just a little bit of a 70 something, and then yeah, we'll reset and reback and go up, right? So I still am very, very bullish if this comes down to 7. I will look at a 10% loss candle and I'll be okay with it. And really, in a lot of ways, just being aware of it happening and being a possibility is so much better than getting blindsided by it and then panicking, right? So if I see a red candle down, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to make my decision on what to do, right? There's so many different ways you can process that and do really well, right? If this thing goes up by, I mean, look, where are we to this right now? Okay, so this open was at 770. This open on 212. We're a couple pennies above that. Let's come into the hourly. Let's see if there's a better candle I can take from the hourly. Man, there barely is, and there really isn't. I'm trying to find a money line right now, and it's on the tight side. I would. What are you at? 770. That's the number we were just looking at. Sorry. Look, I think 8 is a relatively safe number. And again, there's no such thing as safe in this market, right? But if we start creeping towards 790, I think I'm going to start to think that, you know what, it's going to keep going. I think the real money line will probably be volume, all right? The only way I think this won't come down to 7 is if we get 275 million shares. All right? And for us to get 275 million shares on Monday, which is a 7-hour trading day, I need 40 million shares per hour. If hour 1 is at 40 million shares, I'm maybe not thinking 7 anymore, right? If we're around 80 million shares by that second hour, it might start creeping into the 8s and above. All right. So I think volume might be the money line in combination with that like 797, yeah, $798 range that we mentioned. All right. Otherwise, I think we come to 7. I think that's basically where the 8 moving average is going to come. Hopefully, we never lose that. The technical point is probably as low as 660. I wouldn't want to drop from 770 to 660. That feels like a little bit of a heavier drop, right? So maybe keep that in mind if you see some concerns at 7, right? But overall, we're still above all the moving averages, even today on a short trading day, right? Like the white line, the average 50 doesn't know that today was a short day. This thing was expecting in a 7-hour trading day for us to get 130 million shares, right? 127.5 million shares. In only a couple hours, we still beat that average, right? So volume, though it's significantly lower than the last few days, this wasn't a full day, and we still beat the daily average, right? So I'm still seeing good. I'm still seeing the MACD diverge up in the positive, right? I have for sure seen things that healthy cool down at 84 when they go back up to the 90s and 96, 97 RSI, then come back down to 80 something, then go back up, right? Like it's such a tight 50-50. Look at volume, look at around $8. Otherwise, make a plan if it goes to 7. You know what I mean? So I'm going to skip SoundHound. Let me just say it really quickly. All right, let's not skip it, but it's not going to get a lot of time. This is frustrating to me. I'll tell you why it's frustrating to me. I still remember old SoundHound, right? I really didn't do too much here, but man, I did so much here. And doing a little bit here and doing a lot there, you get this thing in the back of your head that's like, oh, I can't miss it again because I know I've done it and I gotta do it again. And I've been saying on these videos that SoundHound is not the same SoundHound. And it's sad but true that very often I say things and then I'm a human that doesn't take my own human advice and I get a little greedy and I do things, right? This still ain't bad. It really is. It's actually been going up and there's an uptrend. And it's funny to see it, like actually today is also over the biggest candles to the left. And you know how much I love when that is, right? Even today's candle that came down is still holding this big candle up. I'm telling you, there is still so much good. But the fact that volume's not breaking the thing, it's just I could see myself getting annoyed when I shouldn't. But look, there's still more reason to think that this is gonna go up to 1260. It's just taking a little less time than it used to. Because again, we're not the same volume juggernaut that we were, just a couple months ago, right? But weekly still looks all right. This is actually the best weekly candle since the year ended last year, right? I think this December candle is probably the last good weekly because even these were all under, like this is the first good week, still a 60, not even a positive MACD yet. If this thing confirms, there's actually a decent chance that the weekly might try to take this a little bit higher, right? But all about the golden line right now. You can tell my almost jaded frustration on this one, but really it does still look good. It's just, man, it's not the old SoundHound, and that has a sad little place in my heart, I think. All right, so let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. I'm going to talk about MLGO first, and then I'll talk about SOFI because I think they both don't have too much to say, but I'd rather start here just in case you watched the last one and you're coming to this one. All right, so I'm never here to tell anyone what to do with their money. I try to never say the words buy, sell, and hold. I rarely even say what I'm holding because I'm telling you, I don't want someone to be like, oh, the chart reader dude is holding. I should probably hold. Believe me, if that was the case, I'd be living on the hills in Beverly Hills, not where I'm living in LA. You know what I mean? So it's all good, baby. MLGO, listen, I baseline. Good things happen over all the moving averages, bad things happen under. The cool little rhyme is break all five up and fly, lose all five down and die. All right. We've been under all moving averages since right here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, under all five and die, right? And really, this thing can bring volume. All right, as much as I say volume is king, volume is queen, yo, those are for sure real things. It starts up here and gotta get at least over one moving average. What I really want is you to get over all five, right? You break all five up and you fly. Yo, BBAI just went from 4 to over 8. Someone doubled, right? There's a person in the YouTube comments. Again, we're not here to brag about where we buy and where we sell. That's not what this channel is about. But there were a lot of people that said I got it a good entry in the 4s, and yo, we knocked on and broke the 8s, right? So good things happen over the moving averages, bad things happen under them. All right. What's now starting to catch my eye is a real attempt to get over the 8. Right? Yesterday did that, right? We closed up here, the line was up here. What I need next is confirmation. This doesn't count as confirmation. That, look, I'm not a candle dude, but to me, that's enough to call it a doji. I needed this. Good candle, good candle. I needed an all right candle and then a good candle, right? Like this is not quite there, but yo, that's a real interesting candle right there. Because now I got to think to myself, there's actually a decent chance that we might even gap up to 80. If not, I think there's a decent chance that if this thing can break, oh man, break 70 cents, I think you're going to make a run to 77. That's basically a 10% run right there, right? That's a beautiful double digit. From there, if this thing gets over 80, the next stop might be 111. If not, maybe even my last death line at 140, right? So there's an interesting reason to think that there's a potential 2x if I'm talking 140 at this like 70 range, right? The issue really is I always talk about the 8 and the 20 as a pair, all right? What does that mean? I'm going to show you. I think I can show you on BBAI. Yeah, beautiful. When you're over it, what you do is you bounce on the 8, and then you slip under but bounce on the 20, bounce on the 20, and you go. These lines are friendly together, and then they're just straight evil together. You can't get over it. When you do, the 20 throws you right back down, right? Can't get over it, back, right? Like these two together are good up, they're bad down. And oops, MLGO is not a real stock, but MLGO is. We've been struggling with the 8. We haven't even gotten to the 20 and gotten rejected down. I don't know if this 20 is going to slap us down or we're going to break it and go. And again, you can see it. Basically, the entirety of the year, we've been pretty much... Nope, that's not true. I'm so sorry. This is the year view. All right, let's look at this year view for a sec. So that's... Okay, so let's talk about this. We start the year, this is the first candle, so we start the year by trying to get over. That's a good candle, doji don't count, that's a good candle, red candle doesn't count, and then we come back down, right? So I wouldn't call this a break of the 20, okay? That's an attempt and then we fail, so we gap up everything. We then quickly lose the 20. It does absolutely nothing right there, actually. And in fact, there was an 8 in the 20 point right there. That really should have made this happen, but we come all the way down to the 50. Last moving average saves it. So I wouldn't even call that a 20 bounce point. Again, when we come to the 20 week, look, quickly lose it, quickly lose it, quickly lose it. This has not been a friendly line all year. All right, so it is really important that maybe 83 is a good, that's where I'm going to look. An alert is not an immediate buy notification. I think I like 83 cents more because that look, the when I click into this candle, the high of the day was 80. So the wick right here is at 80 cents. 80 cents is a little too close to that 20 moving average. Maybe it's going to keep coming down to 76, and that will be a little bit easier to make 80 a good number. But I think by 83, we're well over the 20, we're well over the wick, and all I see is a red, red, red to that first target that we mentioned of a buck 12, right? So I think I like this over 83 cents. I think this is interesting right now for sure, but I need it to get over the 8 and the 20 before I'm a believer. All right. Just my 2 cents. Look, again, I know this stock has volume powers. This thing's gotten 400 million. This thing has gotten 300 million. Yeah, for sure. And then several times it's gotten over or very, very close to 100 million, especially actually in the last couple weeks, right? Those and that, right? So this thing knows how to get over good volume. And I really think if it got into the 80 cent range, it'll get some real good volume. Problem is, if the 20 rejects it and slaps it down, which it very easily can, bad things will continue to happen under all the moving averages. All right. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. I'm going to end it on SOFI. I know I'm running a lot longer than I planned on, but oh my gosh, this is nice right here. All right. This really is what slow and steady looks like, right? With BBAI, where we ran from four, obviously it's a bigger run, right? I'm not trying to make it sound like it's the same percentages, right? But we went from down here at a 50 something RSI all the way up to the 84 RSI right there. SOFI has just over the last complete month made a real nice, I can't do that math that quick in my head. What did we add? $4. That's about a 20. I guess it's not quite. Either way, look, this is beautiful. This really is slow and steady, and I mean, there's no gray hairs growing as you're watching this chart go, right? Once this battle with the 100 moving average was really boring and it took a lot and I got a little frustrated for sure, right? But oh man, you break all five and you fly, and that's exactly what this looks like, right? MACD is doing really, really nicely, but the RSI staying flat is such a good thing because, again, this is the thing I generally look at to start thinking if a healthy cool down is going to be needed, right? This thing has not even gone into the 80s. This thing actually hasn't even needed to use the 8 moving average in the last 2 weeks. It's just kind of been finding itself, recovering itself, et cetera, right? Even as volume has been going down, price actually went up, right? So there's a lot to like. And again, one more time, this is a bank, right? When S&P 500 looks good, when Dow Jones looks good, that makes banking stocks happy. SOFI also likes to play in the tech realm and sprinkle on the fact that the NASDAQ looks just as good. Oh man, that's as fantastic as things can get for SOFI. All right. So for me, my sorry, I have to zoom out a bunch. My next expectation is we're gonna go into this 19 range, right? We're really not that far from it. So I don't think I'm saying much from right there. The next question is gonna be, can we continue up to 22? And maybe we'll get as high as 20. I think 20 is a realistic. I'm not going to draw the line, and I don't even think I want to raise that because I think we still got to get over it before I raise it. But I think 20 could be a place that this actually gets to before I start thinking healthy cool down. All right. The one thing I'm seeing, earnings isn't that far away. All right. So I think that also kind of lines up pretty well with my 20 thinking. I think between now and the next couple weeks before earnings comes, I think we'll go from this 1850 to 20. That's roughly speaking another 10% gain right there, right? Earnings is probably what's going to dictate if we break 2240 and go into all. Let's make this golden. If we break this new golden line and we're going to go into all-time highs, or if we're not, right? So I think that's pretty much my expectation on this. What does the weekly look like, just to make Sure. Yeah, I think that's a perfect weekly chart for what we're thinking, right? Weekly still has room. We're not at the 80 yet. I think there's still another leg for another 10% move. MACD is just getting positive, just getting ready to go. And if we get another good week or two, that'll take us into earnings, and then earnings will dictate the rest, right? So I think it's echoed on both. I would say a roughly $20 target is the plan here. So a lot longer than I planned to do. I apologize for that. Hopefully you found it valuable. You know I appreciate you so much.